All right, welcome back to the Uncomplicated podcast. Today, we are diving into the topic that resonates deeply with many of us, finding balance on self-care while being a working parent. And we are thrilled to have Shaza with us, who will be here to share her journey and insights. Shaza, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Shaza.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me over for the podcast. So my name is Shaza. I have been working as an adjunct lecturer, teaching child development modules. So that actually came with a whole lot of journey along the way. So for me, I started out as an early childhood educator for 3 years. So then I kind of got married and all. And then I switched over to be a child life therapist in the healthcare sector. So in KK and in NUH. Yeah. But then recently I kind of quit my job, my 9-to-5 job, because of my 3 kids. So now I have a little bit more time for them. I hope.
Nice. Yeah. So Shaza reached out to us on Instagram. She said she wanted to share her story specifically because she was a working parent, and then she find that it did take a toll on her mental health as well as her family time.
Yes.
Which I think is super relevant to most parents out there. Although I'm not a parent yet, but I think I feel you guys. To find time for myself also is hard without kids. So how is it going to be for those who are parents? But so Shaza, thank you so much for joining us today. And I think today's episode will definitely touch a lot of we're going to touch about on parenting, on how parents can also find time with us, because I believe parents, you guys do spend more time focusing on the kids.
Yes.
And then you have to balance work.
Yeah, right. I think so. Yeah, and there's that guilt of not spending enough time with the kids. Like, you don't know when is enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And I have that issue with my kids giving me that guilt as well when I'm doing self-care. I don't know if I told you, but if for me, Friday nights are my football nights.
Yes.
And when I play football on Friday nights, my son will ask me like, Abba, where you going? Playing football. And it's just once a week, right? Yeah, every time you play football. Every time.
So we have to dedicate our whole entire life to them.
So why you say every time, But yeah, that feeling of guilt would be there when you have work. And there are times when you, will have to sacrifice one or the other, and how we balance that. I think that's a struggle that you have and want to, provide maybe some insights with the listeners as well.
Right. So like kind of what Haikal was saying about that parent guilt, right? So that was really real for me, especially because that I was kind of working in the early childhood field. I was dealing with child development, and I know how important it is for the interaction with the child, right? And the fact that I was, spending so much time on other people's children, that was really tough, right? Because then I give like my 100% at work. And then after that, when I go home, I'm so emotionally spent.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't have like enough to give my kids. And that guilt was so real. Yeah. So, so I actually had 2 boys. Me and my husband, we actually planned for the 2 boys. So then I was like, when they were a little bit more older, I was like, okay, I can finally like kind of reclaim my life, because that first 2 years, because they're so dependent on you, you are basically doing everything for them. So then, after that 2 years, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do something for myself. I'm going to, pursue higher education. I was going to do my master's. So I was like, okay, so let's start, a journey of, claiming back myself. But then a month before I actually started my master's, I found out that I was pregnant with my 3rd one. Oh my gosh, it was devastating. Honestly, I know a lot of people say like, it's a blessing to have a child and all, but at that point in time, all I felt was devastated. I cried. I really cried when I found out that I was pregnant again. My husband was like, how is it possible? So like for us, we kind of like make sure we plan, make sure that it's not during the time where like it will be like most fertile and things like that. So that's why we just couldn't like what on earth lah. So I think at that point also it was that last straw for me, because at that point I was like, I finally wanted to do something for myself, and now I have to put everything back down and go through this cycle again. And that was so hard for me, because at that point I was like, do I choose myself, or do I take another couple of years and raise this third one, right?
Mm.
And I think at that point in time, I think I kind of went a little bit more crazy. Mental health was so low. I actually contemplated of like, maybe, just maybe, I should just pursue my studies and maybe terminate my pregnancy. But that guilt was real. Like even until now, even she's really turning 3 this year, and even until now, that guilt still eats into me because of the fact that that thought actually crossed my mind.
I'm wondering, during that time when you found out the news. I mean, for myself, I had a surprise third one as well, and I'll say that there was a mixture of emotions. When my parents asked me, how do you feel when you know that you're gonna get the child? I said,
Yeah.
at that point of time, I was not sure whether I want to cry or I want to laugh. What's your emotions at that point of time?
Yeah, so it was really that tough. And at that point in time, I actually didn't tell my parents. I told my parents only when I was like 16 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, 16 weeks.
yeah. And at that point in time, because I didn't know at that point whether I wanted to like keep my pregnancy or anything like. So I just didn't want to tell anyone at that point in time as well. So I decided to kind of still went ahead with pursuing my studies. But at that point in time, because I was working with a group of psychologists, so I was working with the pediatric psychological services in NUH, and the psychologists there are just amazing. So they picked up about things, like I was feeling really down, and I was very affected mentally and all, and they gave me like really awesome support. And I think that was also one of the reasons why I managed to pull through. Yeah. So and even my supervisor, she was like, Shaza, do you want to go and see someone? So at that point in time, I was like, okay, so growing up in a very traditional kind of family, like I guess, seeing a psychologist is a little bit more taboo. Like, hey, like there's something wrong with you mentally. That kind of thing. There's that taboo, even though I think mental health awareness has grown over the past couple of years. But at the back of our minds, your parents like, hey, is like something wrong with you. Like why must you go and see a therapist?
Right.
But at that point in time, I think I chose myself and decided to just pursue that route of kind of, taking a step and get professional help lah. Because at that point in time, being a therapist, I know how much issues and problems you take home of your own clients and your own patients. And then having to deal with that emotions and your own emotions, that was really hard. And I couldn't process all of that. Yeah. So and of course, some of them they kind of ask me, oh, do you want to see like somebody else outside? Whereas for me, I was more comfortable seeing them, right? But then they say it's different because there is that relationship, that I guess friendship and all that may affect that therapeutic relationship lah. So then they kind of urge me to kind of find somebody else, and so I did. And I think that was like the best step I took. Because then that was also the point where I knew I had to drop work, right? So there was this analogy that my therapist kind of shared with me where, there are different things, there are different balls that you are juggling, but there are certain ones that are glass and there are certain ones that are rubber,
Oh.
right? So then rubber is the rubber balls, one can be work. You can always bounce back, but family is a glass ball. Once it cracks, you cannot fix back again. And I thought that analogy was just like, oh my gosh, like it really opened up perspective for me lah. And that was when I knew that I wanted to choose my family. I didn't want that glass ball to break. And I knew work, even though at that point in time, I don't know what else I was going to do, but I knew I can find something. I just need to make effort for it lah.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to way before this started. So you were an early childhood educator ever since before you got married.
Yes, correct. So I was like a teacher for your anchor operator, Sparkle Thoughts, for 3 years before I went over to the healthcare sector to be a child life therapist.
And it has always been a 9 to 5 job.
And it has always been a 9 to 5 job. I think for early childhood educators, sometimes it goes beyond 7.
Yeah.
And that's hard too, right? Because like you are caring for other people's kids, but then you have your own kids as well. So that's hard as well, right? So I can only imagine like the amount of stress preschool teachers go through, right? Because and even like normal teachers as well, right? Because you have your own children, but then you also have to care for other people's children as well. that guilt is real, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while you had your firstborn and the secondborn, you were still working in 9 to 5.
Yes, correct. So
Wow.
all the way until I quit my job.
Yeah, speaking about working parents, because I know a lot of working parents out there, they do admit that they struggle with this.
Right.
Number one is because working 9 to 5 is really tiring. You go to work, you have to wake up very early.
Yes.
It's not 9 to 5. You reach 9, that means you have to wake up at 8. Sometimes you have to wake up at 6. And then 5 doesn't mean you reach home at 5, you reach home at 7.
Right.
And then you only have a few hours to, spend with your kids.
Yep.
Before you have to sleep early to get everything started again tomorrow.
Right. It was
So-
very routine.
It's very,
Really routine.
yeah, that routine actually kind of also drains out the energy. Because I understand that working 9 to 5 is tiring, and then have to go back home. Focusing on your family is another whole new thing. Yeah. So do you have clients coming to you that facing these kind of issues?
Yeah, definitely. I do have clients facing the issues. I face the issue myself. Right. We spoke about entrepreneurship. We work 24 hours.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not 9 to 5. Although
yeah.
I'm 9 to 5, I go back, I still have to do other stuff. But yeah, I do have clients who have that struggles, especially for moms. I have to admit, moms somehow they feel that mom guilt a bit more stronger. They feel a stronger sense of responsibility for their children's well-being. And normally, I would agree with what your therapists have said, although I will put it in another way. I would normally ask, at that point of time, there are different needs, right?
Right.
What needs is the one that's important for you to meet at that point of time?
Yeah.
And that's what I'll explore. And it's great that for you, you know that, okay, family is important for you over work.
Yes.
And nothing wrong with that. There might be some other person where they feel that, well, my work is more important than my family right now. I'm willing to sacrifice that for now.
Yep.
Also nothing wrong with that, right? But if you are trying to balance everything together, it will be quite hard.
Right.
So what needs is that?
Drop, right?
Yeah, that you have to decide for yourself.
Exactly.
Mm.
So I think that was one big thing. I think prioritizing. So I think that's also really a huge part of self-care as well, like prioritizing, because you as one person cannot do everything, right? And the next thing would kind of be asking for help.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think a lot of moms have this like Haikal was saying, that huge sense of responsibility. Like, I must make sure that everything is perfect, everything is done.
Yeah.
The house is kept clean, the groceries are, up to date, the kids, all their uniforms are ironed and all, right? But then you are one person, right?
Yeah.
And you have a husband for a reason. No, I think we just we grew up in a society where like women are more towards like doing all those housekeeping.
Expected to do.
Right. So that societal expectation actually adds upon that guilt lah. But I also think at that point in time, but you are putting that expectation on your own self. So that's what I was telling myself, right?
Okay.
Nobody put that expectation on you. Expect yourself to be able to be in tip-top shape. Like, I have to be like the best mom for my kids and all. But then who's going to give back to you, right? So if you don't care for yourself, you basically have nothing else to give your kids. And that built a lot of resentment in me, right? Like resentment, like I cannot do this. Like even like, having a meal outside, I cannot have anything spicy because if not, later the kids will want to eat that spicy food as well. And that, I know like it sounds so like minor and all, but at that point in time, it's really like, I feel like choices are taken away from me,
Understand.
right? Like I have to sacrifice my personal needs / wants for my kids. And that built a lot of resentment for me lah.
And then when you say, there are different priorities that you have to choose, right?
Right.
So what were some of the needs or priorities that you were like, really get down and say that, okay, no, it's not that important. You have to just let go of it.
Agreed. So, it's more on the practical aspect lah. So a lot of things I have this, I'm very house proud. So I want to make sure that my house is really nice and clean. Like before I go to bed, like everything is clean and all. But I have let go of that expectation. And now I actually, kind of hire like 2-3 hours part-time help to kind of come in and do that basic stuff where then I can focus on other things, right? And then I also now when I cook, I don't try to make things from scratch. There's something called instant paste. But you know, all this kind of thing actually saves you time.
It does.
It distresses you, right? So like, self-care, there's a lot of different parts of self-care. Self-care is not just like, oh, let me sit down and then after that I just drink tea. It's not just that, right? So self-care can also be something very practical, like organizing your life, right? Like so like right now my next in line for practical self-care is really more of planning out the dinners for a whole entire month instead of trying to plan out like day by day, because that stresses me out so much, right? That decision fatigue is so real, right? And I don't need that, right? So then now I sit down for that 5-10 minutes. I actually, plan out dinners for that particular month, and then I know what are the groceries that I need to get and all, so that I don't have to stress.
Yeah.
So this is all like, practical self-care,
Yeah.
right? And then, so then you also have like your emotional self-care where you kind of do a bit more of journaling. So I was never in touch with my like emotions. I would just kind of push it aside, like, it's my duty as a mom. I just need to do it, right? But I'm also allowed to feel. Yeah. So, and I think like kind of journaling that down helped a little bit to kind of process the day and like, oh, maybe I could have done this better, but then I get to celebrate the small wins, right? For the day, like, oh, my youngest didn't cry going to school today. Or, my eldest came back and he was really happy that he got full marks for his spelling test. All these small minor things, right? But that celebrating that wins makes me feel like I'm not a failure.
Yeah. That's true.
I want to jump in because when you think about you saying about the priority, I think one of the things that I let go of was also the cleanliness of my house. and in fact, I'm a therapist, but I see a psychologist myself. And believe it or not, I see a psychologist. When I was having that struggle, like, I was one day like just telling my psychologist, my house, if you come, you see how bad of a condition it was, and sometimes I do get angry. Now I've let go of that, and my psychologist said, "Why is your house so messy?" I said, "It's like full of toys. My kids were playing with it." And so when you see it, right, what's the thought that makes you feel so? And you're like, "Wow, why is this house so messy? You all cannot take out the house. You don't have to keep." Then he said, "But what is the reason that the house is so messy?"
Right.
He said, "Because the kids were playing with it."
Yeah.
Were your kids having fun playing with it? What do you expect the kids to do with their toys? Keep it?
Yeah.
Right?
Keep it nicely not touch.
If that's going to happen, I mean, if I'm going to compress everything, if you are expecting your kids to be keeping it, like what kind of kids are you expecting, right? If you come in, you go and see that the house is a mess. Did you guys have fun with the toys?
Right.
Then you'll be like, wow, that's great. You enjoy coming home. The kids enjoy coming home. You know that that's the place for you and your kids to have fun and connect together. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
It's like reframing, right? Reframing the situation. And I think that is also a very important part of, trying to think things in a different way.
Correct.
Right? So I think naturally we tend to see like the kind of bad side of it, but we don't, turn things into something more positive.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't frame things.
Yeah, because I'm not saying that, okay, fine, just leave it as a mess. But you guys, when you're done, put it in there. But I'm not going to expect it to be like nicely on display. Right? Although, okay lah, when I do clean it up and all that, then I would put it nicely. But of course, after that, it will be in a mess again.
Yeah, right. Kids, right? I mean, they are kids. They are learning. They are developing their skills. And this is when we give the opportunity for them to develop the skills.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think a lot of us expect the kids to be like adults like us, right? And even for me as well, being in this line and all, I tend to forget that sometimes as well. When you get so mad, it's like, why can't you do this, right? But then after that, so this is a strategy that I do. When I get really angry, I look at their hands, so that I see how small their hands are, and I'm like, it's not going to be like this small anymore. So take time and give them the opportunity to develop. So you can try that too. I hope that helps, but that helped me a lot, knowing that they are kids and they are learning from me, right? So if I don't know how to cope for my own emotions, how do I expect my own children to be able to cope with their own emotions, right? They won't be able to learn to regulate those emotions. So that's the part where I think now I know that the importance of taking care of myself so that my kids can model it next time as well.
Yeah. I had a thought cross my head, because usually when you are told that you're going to be a parent, I think it can come as a shock. Don't you think? I mean, for me, if someone tells me that, oh, you're going to have a kid in 9 months, huh? I'm going to have a culture shock to adjust from what I'm doing right now to what I'm going to do in the future. There'll be a lot of worries. And usually adults, when we are given something that we don't have time to prepare, I think it can actually get the best of us. So now that you mentioned all this self-care, is it something that you develop after you have a child? Like trying ways to maybe, still fit in your time and then still fit in your child's time?
Right. I think it's like a little bit of both. Like the fact that I had a little bit more of child development knowledge, I kind of knew how important it was. And I think that was also one of the reasons why I had such high expectations on myself, right? Knowing like, hey, you are an advocate for children, right? And if you are not going to practice what you preach, so who's going to actually listen to you? Kind of thing. But that is actually a thought.
Jen 5 bintang kembali lagi. Khidmat pasangan suami isteri SQ Rauda memang bagus. Memenangi banyak anugerah Propnex, urus niaga HDB terbaik, penyenarai eksklusif terbaik, penerima anugerah Platinum. Hubungi ejen 5 bintang SQ Rauda dan Partners.
Thought that went through my own head. It's not like somebody put that thought in. So it's an expectation on myself. But then as I learn and grow, I also know that we are also humans, right? So like if like nobody is that perfect person, everyone has their threshold as well, right? So now I know, like, when I'm like really done with the kids, I'll be like, sayang, I'm tapping out. Can you please take over? Because if I'm going to take over, I'm going to start screaming down the house, honestly. So yeah, I mean, having a partner to kind of share that I guess burden and journey with you, that really helped a lot.
Yeah, I guess it is. I mean, if you were to compare with our parents' generation, usually there is this, like we mentioned, the expectation that the women has to do this and the man has to do this. Usually you can see depicted from all the movies. Man comes home, food is ready, reading newspaper in his sleep. But I think these days things have changed.
Yes,
I think it's
definitely.
really important for both to play a part. Also because most women these days are working.
Right, yeah.
So you can't expect, the women come home from work and they do everything. So it's all about give and take.
Right, correct. So, and I think that also means communication is very important.
Yeah.
And that in itself is self-care, because if you are not going to do that communication with your own partners, right? Then both of you are going to struggle, right?
Yeah.
So there was that time when the both of us were basically surviving day by day, like literally just going through the motions and waking up and just try our best to survive the day, right? Yeah, and I didn't want to have that kind of life, right?
Yeah.
I've seen how my parents were, they are workaholics, right? I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, and because Singapore is insanely expensive, right? But I do understand the importance of that. But I do feel there are many ways we can generate incomes, lah. Yeah, and we don't have to, sacrifice that part, like, your own personal life just because you have to go through a 9 to 5 job. So that was what between for me and my husband. But of course, my husband still goes through with his 9 to 5, so there is that some form of stability, right? Where then he gives me, that allowance and the opportunity to kind of just pursue what I really love, what I'm interested in.
Find a balance.
I think to add to that, it's not just about, I think I'm advocating for the involvement of fathers,
Correct.
not just because the moms are working right now,
Right.
and because the involvement of fathers
Right.
is actually very impactful in certain aspects of the child's development.
Yes.
Right? There are certain things that moms can do,
Yes.
which fathers can't do.
Agree.
And there are certain things fathers can do, which moms don't do.
Yes.
Right? And I think that's something that a lot of people miss out. Then because one thing about one role that the fathers play is that they actually encourage risk taking. Right? But
Yes,
risk taking in a way that you also consider the safety.
Yes.
Because moms will go like, okay, no, don't
Yes,
dangerous thing.
right.
But dad will do the crazy stuff, right? I will throw my kids and all that. So it encourages some form of risk taking, but you also consider the consequences.
Yes.
All right, so that's where the fathers will model this kind of thing.
Agreed.
Another one where the father is involved is in this like rough and tumble play, which actually teach them emotional regulation. Because they just go, and after that they learn that, right? They learn to regulate emotions. So there's a lot of important roles for fathers out there.
Yes,
They do get involved.
Yeah.
Right? Not just because your wife is working and then you feel sorry for her, but there are contributions that you can do. That's true.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I really agree with that. So like I think for my husband, I'm always the more of like, okay, you know, you have rules, right? You have checklists that you have to do. So I like kind of create a system to ensure, you know, like that smooth flow, you know, of routine for the kids after school and things like that. But then my husband is a little bit more fun and okay, come, you know, let's inject some fun in it kind of thing too. So it kind of shows the kids like it's not like life is just not all about following checklists and all that. There needs to be some fun. There needs to be some, you know, interesting events, you know, going on and all. And usually my husband Farhan, he will be the one kind of going for like, hey, you know what, you want to go toilet, you know, you want to go sleep, you know, that kind of thing. Yes, which I think is a good like balance right between the two, right? So the kids can see both sides, not only just one type of parenting kind of thing.
So I think it's not don't have to be shy to ask your
don't.
really.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Those out there, please go and ask your husbands, okay, for help. Like honestly, you know, I think in the society as well, you know, when the husband takes the children out, right, and everyone's like, wow, the father can take care of 3 kids. Then the mother goes out and bring the 3 kids, right? Yeah, it's the mother's job. Like, hello. You know, so it's really, I think that mindset and that mentality that we kind of have to shift from as well. It's like, dads can do that as well. And dad shouldn't be helping the mom. Dad should be doing it together. So when you're helping, right, you're saying that the mother has to do everything and the husband is just there to kind of help. That's all. But that's not it, right? You must in this together. Right, so you shouldn't be helping to take care of the kids. You should take care of the kids.
So did your husband know that he has to take care, or were there some, I don't know, like nudging or prodding that you needed to do, you know, to encourage him to be involved?
There was a lot of that nudging, but I think it also came down to communication lah. So that first year, I think it was hard for him. So he's the youngest, right? So he was really he grew up with a lot of, I guess, like, you know, support. He was basically like the mama's child, right? Whereas I'm the oldest in the family, right? So I have a twin sister and I have a brother who is 10 years younger than us, right? So then kind of taking on that step, you know, and then transiting to that mother role because of the fact that now I have to take care of like so many like people, and not only the children, then it's also the husband as well.
So how do you communicate with him? How do you nudge him to...
Right. So the first one was really kind of sitting down and telling him like what I was feeling. So I think that's what like maybe a lot of couples may be lacking in, like they kind of keep it in and they suppress it and then they don't share. So then my husband will always, once we kind of had like the talk, then my husband will be like saying, saying, I'm not a mind reader. I need you to tell me exactly what you want or what you expect from me. But then whereas for me, I'm like, it's common sense, but honestly, it's really not common sense for some people. Like, because it's not an experience that they went through, right? Like for me, because I grew up as the eldest in the family. So certain things are like common sense. But they also have to understand that not everyone grew up in that kind of like, you know, setting or background, right? So I think sitting down and communicating with your husband will actually kind of help you, you know, kind of delegate the role as well. So another thing I feel like I myself faced was the issue of mental load, right? So because, you know, I need to think, I need to iron the clothes. I need to go and buy pasta from the store. Then you have all your work stuff, things as well. And everything's all mental load in your own brain, right? So then now the system that we have, like me and my husband, is for me to write down all the different household tasks that needs to be done. So if he sees that, then he knows that these are the tasks that needs to be done. So then he can, okay, I need to go and do this, right? Because, you know, usually, like sometimes for my husband, I'll be like, oh no, everything okay. My wife never asked me to do anything. But then it's actually that mental load that I never kind of let it out, right? But I need it done, but it's not done. So then now, kind of having it on the board, you know, on the door, to let him know that, these are the household tasks that we need to kind of, you know, do it. That actually helps him, like, communicates with him as well. Like, okay, these are the stuff that we need to do.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I like that when you mentioned about the unloading your mental load.
Right.
Because at times you might think that, hey, I have to do everything.
Yeah.
But actually it's not you have to do everything. It's just maybe the other party needs a bit of nudging, like
Right.
you mentioned.
Yep.
And then when you write it down, it gives you a bit more space
Yes.
for yourself.
That cognitive load is like kind of off your head.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it's more of a mom thing, really. Because I don't struggle with that. No, my wife always say that. Yeah, my mental load, my mental.
Yeah. I was like, what's your mental load?
Go for example, if you're going for holiday, she'll be like, must have this, must have that. I'm like,
Yes.
don't have down there, can buy lah. We are not good people, right? What's that?
So again,
No.
communication is very important.
No, but she will win because there are times when really we needed some medication and we don't need it.
Yep.
I mean, then we really need it.
Yep.
So yeah, that's right. But I'm like, is it necessary? Yeah.
They want to bring the whole house.
I mean, if we can, I think we will bring the whole house.
Yeah, but I think for husbands, for guys out there who don't know how to manage or don't know how to contribute, I think communication is important.
Yep.
For me, my I won't say my mantra, right? But my guiding point is, right, just take care of your wife. As long as your wife is okay, the kids will be okay. So sometimes I don't know what to do, right? You want to sleep more? I let my wife sleep more, right? Because if she's fine, the kids will be fine.
Yes.
Right.
That's what I do.
I see where this is linking to.
It's happy wife, happy life, yeah.
But actually, it's a good saying, like, it's true. Because I think kids are more attached to the mothers most of the time. So the mother's emotions plays a huge role to the kids' emotions as well.
Agreed.
And of course, fathers play the supporting role. So to make sure that their wife
It's fine.
is fine. Yeah. Now, Shaza, back to you. In terms of your, now you're progressing in terms of your self-care, your mental health. Are you able to now find time for yourself to, be with yourself?
Yep. So I definitely have a lot more time and like space, I think, mentally as well as time for myself. And that has really helped a lot lah in terms of mental health lah, because now life seems a bit more interesting. Like I don't know what's the next thing that's going to happen. So like for this podcast, right? It's exciting, right? It's a different thing that we are doing now. So I feel like I can kind of explore life a little bit more and kind of do things that I want to do or I've always been thinking of doing about lah. But of course there's also the cons of it, like it's not all pros, like time flexibility. I mean, time flexibility is really one thing I needed at that point in time with the kids being so young and all. That time flexibility allows me to take leave without going to my boss and asking my boss like, sorry, I need to take urgent care. And that's hard, right? Because when you have patients, like when you are seeing patients, you know that you have a patient to see, but then you are like basically choosing between your patient and your child.
Oh yeah.
Right? And that was hard. So now having this time flexibility is really good. And of course I then am able to, kind of recollect myself a little bit more before I kind of come home with the kids and all, and I get to do things that makes me feel a little bit more fulfilled, right? Yeah. So so as in you don't have to quit your 9 to 5 job or anything to do self-care, but I think it's very important to carve out some self-care time.
Yeah.
And you can communicate this with your husband as well. Sayang, I just need 30 minutes, right? To be doing this. Right? Can you make sure that you are just, taking care of the kids and things like that lah, so that you don't have to be bothered by them. So then sometimes I would just kind of go to like maybe a ice cream cafe or anything, just kind of read a book or whatsoever for that 30 minutes. And now that I was like, okay, now I kind of, I'm done with that. I'm going back now. So now I feel a little bit more refreshed. I'm not shouting and screaming the house down, And I think all in all that kind of improve the relationship, the family relationship. So it's not only just the couples, but it's also with your own children as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important because if you take care of yourself, then the children, when you're present, the children also know that they can feel that you want to be there for them, right? Because there might be some people might go like, because of you, then
Yeah.
it actually can lead to that kind of sends that message to the kids that they are actually being a burden to you.
Right, exactly. So the last thing you want is to have an irreparable kind of relationship with your child because you are not in that right state of mind, right? Is it worth it? is it worth destroying that relationship with your child, right? So I like, some people may feel resentment to their own parents, like, oh, mama, abba all not around last time. Do you want your kids to have that as well with you? Because of the fact that you're working so hard, you are not giving them enough time. They don't remember whether you're working like hard or anything like that. They are remembering the great memories, the sweet memories, all those time you spend with them. So it's that quality time that is really important.
True, I agree. You may be thinking that if you work more, then you can buy them more toys. Honestly, they don't.
Yeah, they don't care.
Right? You can buy them. Honestly, you can buy them cheap toys, play with them. I think they will appreciate it more than expensive toys, but you are not there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I read a book somewhere about a real life story where this man actually tried to save money, worked so hard, save money because he wanted to bring his wife for a holiday, a very grand holiday. But the wife waited and waited and waited. Eventually, the wife passed away.
That missed opportunity, right?
Yeah,
So
and
the
he
last
regretted
thing
it.
really sad.
Regretted saving so much, working so much, but not spending time with the wife.
Yeah, and this just came to my mind because there's somewhere I read as well that the most precious thing that can give to people, right, or people that you love is actually time.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I were to tell you, not that I'm going to do that, but I tell you that, hey, you know what, I am donating $10,000,
Yep.
right? Versus I tell you that I'm going to take like 10 weeks off work and I'm not going to spend any money, but I'm going to do some like community work. Which one do you think would be, wow, this guy is really doing it versus, him donating 10,000? Because the time you will not be able to get back.
Yeah.
So that's why it's precious, right? So that's a very precious resource that you will have to decide how you want to spend it on.
Yes, exactly. So I also think like, certain tasks like, housekeeping and all, you can definitely delegate outwards,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Yeah.
Because then you can actually use that time and spend it in a more, like, I guess, quality manner with your kids, with your
Yeah.
family and all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like how she mentioned that, she just, wants to let go of the cleanliness of the house. Well, she's a parent. I'm not a parent. I have a robot vacuum because I cannot stand vacuuming every day. Okay, Shaza, if there's one thing that you can tell yourself right now,
Right.
Your past self, especially the ones that went through what she has went through,
Yeah.
what would you like to say to her?
I think I want to kind of let her know that there's so much that you can plan, but sometimes things just doesn't go as planned, right? So I've always been a person where I need to plan out my life. Like I need to know what's going to happen in the next month. I need to know what's going to happen next year. And that gave me a lot of certainty, right? So I needed that certainty, but with that certainty as well, it came with the routine and the mundaneness of like life. And there was kind of no purpose for me at that point in time, right? Because I was doing something for the sake of making sure that I was financially stable, right? But it was at the expense of my mental health, right? So I just want to let her know that it's okay to pursue your dreams and all, right? It's okay to kind of drop certain balls or certain priorities first while you deal with other priorities. It's okay. You don't have to deal with everything. And I also want to tell her that she has a husband who is more than willing to help her out if only she opens her mouth, right? So I think that lack of communication really affected our relationship. But I think now that, everything is a lot more out in the open, that communication actually built our relationship. Yeah, and I think that's important. Like if you have a very supportive spouse and all, it feels like you can go through it all, no matter the challenges that you face, with your kids. Knowing that you can always go back to someone who's always supporting you. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
So now Haikal's like thinking, okay, let me see, what can I do for my wife?
Look, I'm all ready to be hands-on. Really, it's something. Sometimes I feel that it's moms that would be they will have to not be feeling guilty or to feel shy to open up.
Right.
Definitely, you say about that perfectionism need for certainty. Yeah, the fathers would not take care of the kids like how you would, right?
Yes.
We may do certain crazy stuff when mom's not at home, but you know that your child is safe, right? And you can go out there and take care of yourself, come back, charge, be there with the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. So I think it's like really managing your expectations as a mom and managing your expectation of your spouse. So that's where I guess communication is very important, right? Because if you don't share those expectations of your spouse, don't share the expectations with you as well, then you all will never see eye to eye. And that's the one where, you come in with a lot of like, I guess, misunderstanding and all, and a lot of like maybe accusations like, hey, why you never do this, why you never do that, that kind of thing. But because it was not communicated out, right? So both sides are not mind readers, right? So you need to share your emotions, you need to express your needs, you need to express your wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think both mom and dad, both of you are a team, right? And sometimes certain teammates will have more to do.
Yes.
Sometimes the other teammate will have, needs a break.
Right.
That's how it works.
Exactly. It's like really working to your strengths, right? Because both of us have different strengths. So you work to your strengths. And then you use that strength to kind of go through this journey together and raise your kids. So I think that really helps a lot.
Shaza, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
joining
so
us to this podcast. We learned a lot about how important it is for us to practice self-care.
Yes.
I think a lot of us, we neglect that, thinking that it's not important, but you first before you are able to spread the love to others.
Right.
So yeah, really thank you so much for being
Right.
here.
Thank you so much for inviting me to the podcast.
Welcome. Yeah, and to our listeners, we hope you have a fruitful listening into our conversation. We want to remind you to take time to carve out, to take care of yourself, because self-care is something that's really a priority. It's not a luxury.
Yeah.
And that is something that will allow you to be able to be present, right? For yourself, for your family, for the people that you really love.
Yeah. And if you know somebody who needs that self-care, please share them this video so that they can also listen and hopefully get some tips out of it. With that, don't forget to uncomplicate the complicated. Bye.
It's Uncomplicated.